I get a little chance here to say a few words at the end of the conference. And basically what I thought I would do today is incoherently string together a necklace of half-formed thoughts. So I thought if I set the bar really low, then... And I scribbled out a whole bunch of notes this morning, and I can't read any of them. So it's a lot like a journey where you can't read the map, so you just kind of follow your heart, I think. But one of the things I wanted to say is that it seems to me that from what I've been hearing here in my own life, I think in the zeitgeist, so transition is a very, very big theme in our lives right now, in our age. Many of the people I've met here at the conference are going through transitions. It may be a career change, maybe moving from one phase of a professional life to another. It may be a life change necessitated by some medical reasons, perhaps a relationship change, perhaps children growing up and moving on and suddenly your life is not what it was before. There are infinite reasons, but I feel like change and transition is kind of an especially poignant theme this year. I guess it really always is a part of life, but somehow it feels especially poignant and present to me this year. And it's also, transition is very much the theme of the crafts that we talk about that are the heart of what we do here, travel writing and travel photography. And in the past 5 years, the world of travel photography has changed enormously. The world of travel writing in my lifetime and in the lifetime of many of the faculty members has just changed almost, you can't recognize it almost. It's kind of extraordinary how much change there's been. And that fact was really brought home to me the other day when I was going through some old files and I came across the 1996 Book Passage Travel Writers Conference schedule. There it is, right there. On Friday, from 2 to 3:30, there were 4 panels. One was called Newspapers and Magazines, Selling That First Story. Another was called Adventure Travel Writing with Jeff Greenwald. Another was called Working with an Agent. And the other was called Guidebook Roundtable, What Publishers Want. And then the second set in the afternoon, there was Newspapers and Magazines, Advice for Published Writers, Making a Living as a Freelancer, The Ethics of Travel Writing, with Jeff Greenwald. That was it. The next day, there was pretty much a repetition. Newspapers and Magazines, Selling That First Story, Guidebook Roundtable, Working with a Book Agent. And we added one more, very interesting, Travel Writing and the Internet. What is this thing you call the Internet? The afternoon was Newspapers and Magazines, Advice for Published Writers, Making a Living as a Freelancer. A new one, Offbeat and Unusual Book Projects, with Larry Habiger. And then another one, Getting Published on the Internet. And that was it. That was the whole everything. So that's kind of astonishing to think where we were in 1996, but I did notice I also had a list of the faculty members, the participants, and going down I saw one woman who's had about 4 books published. It's Sarah Rose, who's made quite a career for herself as a writer, and then I saw a photographer, Allison Wright, who's done pretty well for herself also. She's a National Geographic photographer now. So that was interesting to see that they were students back in 1996. So, transition, a lot of change. In my own life, transition has been a big theme. As a lot of you know, my mom passed away a couple of years ago, right before this conference, and that definitely influenced my sense of the conference and my sense of my own life, and it still does. And actually right now, standing here, I feel her presence really, really strongly, as I did last year. A really great friend of mine, a great friend and mentor named Ford Cochran, who was the director of trip talent for National Geographic expeditions, and a guy who was an important person to me personally and professionally, passed away incredibly unexpectedly about a week ago. Just no reason. I mean, there was a reason, I don't know what it was, but he certainly didn't seem, he seemed in great health when I saw him in June. So transitions are a part of our lives. Transition in my professional life has been something I've been thinking about a lot too recently. I have had the ridiculous luck, beginning with Georgia, of being a travel writer and an editor all of my life, all of my professional life. And I've been a travel writer and editor for these incredibly wonderful publications, beginning with the Examiner Chronicle, moving to Salon.com, moving to Lonely Planet. In all of these roles, I've had this kind of platform that was a global platform, and I've had mentors, and I've had the ability to reach a lot of people with my writing. And that is in transition. When I left Lonely Planet in 2007, I got scooped up immediately by National Geographic Traveler. I wrote a column for them for many, many years. And then recently, as the publishing world has changed, they stopped doing the column. As lots and lots of us in the room know that there are fewer and fewer opportunities of those kinds. And so we have to redefine ourselves. And for me, it's been really quite a challenge, because all these years I had these incredible platforms that enabled me to reach lots of people without me really having to worry too much about it. And suddenly, I don't have those platforms anymore. And so it's really been a year of kind of searching for me. And one of the things I realized is that I've defined myself for a long, long time as someone who makes a living as a travel writer and editor for these kinds of places. And when those kinds of places are no longer available, then I have to redefine myself. And redefining yourself is really intimidating and scary. It's like falling off a cliff, into a void. I know this cliff really, really well. This is the cliff I've been doing for 40 years, and then suddenly, whoa, wait, where'd the cliff go? So one of the things I've realized wrestling with this sense of myself is really, ultimately, how you define yourself in the world is all in your head. It's really, really, really all in your head. And this reminded me of something I experienced when I was writing a story about Cambodia for National Geographic. Actually, I was writing the story for BBC Travel. I'd gone to Cambodia to visit Angkor Wat, and I ended up spending 3 days in Angkor Wat, and then I moved on to this other place I discovered when I was doing my research about Angkor Wat, and it was called Bante Chamar. When I got to Angkor Wat, nothing really happened. I was a little bit frustrated and confused by Angkor Wat. There were so many tourists there, so many people taking selfies. The magic that I expected to find there wasn't there. But then I got to Bante Chamar, which was an afterthought, and magic happened all around me. Incredible magic. I met the most amazing people. I got lost in the jungle. I found these incredible temples that nobody knew anything about. It was extraordinary. But when I went to write my story, because I had originally gone to Cambodia to visit Angkor Wat, I thought, I have to start by writing about Angkor Wat. And I literally spent a week beating my head against the wall, trying to write a lead about Angkor Wat. And it was one of the most painful writing experiences of my life. And at one point I remember literally looking at myself in the bathroom mirror saying, "You wrote the book on travel writing! Why can you not do this?" I reread the book, it didn't help. What I finally figured out was, again in the shower, which is probably something, I don't know, but anyway, in the shower, wait a minute, I'm in control of my story. I don't have to begin my story in Angkor Wat. Who's telling me to begin my story in Angkor Wat? I am. So I began this story in Bante Chamar. And then the story just rolled out of me, not effortlessly, but like a flowing stream that had been dammed up. Suddenly the dam was gone and the story just came out. And I realized that in the same way that I was in control of my Cambodia story, I could begin the story in Bante Chamar. You're in control of your life story. You can begin your life story wherever you want. You define who you are in the world. And if I define myself by saying, I am a person who does things that no longer exist, that's not very helpful. But if I say, I need to recalibrate this, how do I do that? How do I recalibrate that? So, you could say the road is closed. Oh my God, the road is closed. Or you can say, I'm building a new bridge. And so I've decided to build a new bridge. So transition, I like the concept of transition because it includes that sense that there's something after. It's not that the road is closed, it's that there's a new road ahead. We're in transition from one thing to another. I think that we're always tracing roads, we're always building bridges. But what I've decided and learned and made a part of my practice in this last year is to ask myself two really important questions. The first question is, what makes me happy? What makes me happy? And the second is, as I easily asked Jason and Yegi the other night, what's the purpose of my life? What's the purpose of my life? So I would really encourage you all to ask yourself those two questions. What makes you happy? Really think about it. What makes you happy? And then what's the purpose of your life? The answers to those questions, I think, become your roadmap. What makes me happy? I love my family. I love hanging out with my family. I love traveling and I love writing. I love people. I love bringing people together. I love building bridges of understanding and appreciation. And when I think about that, I realize that I build two kinds of bridges. The first bridge is between me as a writer and the subject that I'm studying. You have to build that bridge first, right? You go to a place, you have to build a bridge between yourself and the place and the people that you're writing about. And then, as a writer, you build a second bridge between yourself and your readers, your audience. You're building these bridges constantly. We're bridge builders. But now I'm learning to substitute the word audience for reader. I've started leading, as my writing production is decreasing to a certain extent, what's increasing for me is leading these trips around the world, writing workshops and just trips for National Geographic expeditions and for geographic expeditions. Now I lead 7 trips a year, and I have a much richer, deeper relationship with the readers on this trip than I ever could with a San Francisco newspaper reader or a National Geographic traveler reader. I'm literally in the field with these people for 7, 10, 12, 21 days, sharing what I would share as a storyteller in print, but in real life. I'm a storyteller, and so I'm learning to redefine myself as a storyteller and to redefine my reader as an audience. And when you think of it that way, the reality hasn't changed, but my perception has changed, and my perception leads me to think, what an incredibly rich life I have. What an incredibly great opportunity I have to talk to 14 people in the wilds of Japan about why I love Japanese culture, and to introduce those people to this amazing local person who has become a great friend of mine and who will teach you more about the mountain vegetables than possible. So I used to think that we are the sum of our words, and I used to think that when I got old, what I really hoped I would have would be a whole shelf full of my books. And I would say, that's me, that's what I've done. But in fact, what I've come to learn is that books are one kind of creation, and then there's all kinds of other creations. And that we should own and honor everything we create. I mean, your being here is a magnificent act of creation on your part. the conversation that we had with Jason and Yegi. That was a magnificent act of creation, if I may say so. It was a really, really wonderful evening. Leading a tour group around the world, leading a wonderful, magnificent workshop in North Beach. These are all creations. These are creative acts. These are bridges that we're building. And we should honor those and acknowledge them and make them a part of who we are. Everything that you do, you have control over. Everything you do, you should honor and respect and think, that's awesome, I just did that. Whether it's a conversation, a paragraph, a photograph, whatever it is, it's your creation. And you are the sum of those creations, not the sum of the words. And that's what I like to think. In my heart and soul, I think that this is maybe one of the greatest creations of all. And, you know, Elaine, I could not have, of course, obviously couldn't have done this without Elaine. But together, happily, we've created something that just keeps giving and giving. It's a tribe that grows every year. It's a tribe that gets stronger, more rich, more vivid, more layered. I look at this room and I see love, I see wisdom, I see compassion, I see generosity, I see life experience, I see craft experience, I see karaoke experience. That's all been seeded and nurtured and blossomed here. And the thing is that this is just the beginning. This isn't the end of the road. This is just the beginning. So now the next transition is up to you. The next transition starts. A couple of hours from now, we're going to be slowly, sadly, happily pulling out of the parking lot, moving on to whatever is next in our lives. You're going to be transitioning into the post-book passage world. Not nearly as nice as this world.
Perish the thought.
I know,
Post-book
right?
passage.
Perish the thought. But of course you bring book passage with you. You've got book passage inside you now. You're infected in the best possible way with book passage. I believe that you've been changed by your time here. I know I've been changed by your time here. And I hope, and I very, very much believe that you now can change the world outside of book passage by bringing what you've experienced here out with you into the world. And what I like to say is that that's the sacred trust. That's the sacred compact that we make here. That what we live here and love here doesn't stay here, but we take it with us and we infuse the world with it. That everything you've learned here, everything you felt here, you take that with you and you bridge it around the world. And what I'd really like to say is, believe in yourself. You make the road that you walk. You make the bridge that you cross. You're in charge of that. That's your work. But it's also the thing that you honor, the thing that you acknowledge. When I step back and kind of try to look at you all and look at this incredible, wonderful tribe, certainly 28 years ago, we had no idea that we were going to be here 28 years later. The first year we thought, let's just try it and see what happens. The second year we thought, let's try it again and see what happens. And now here we are 28 years later, and we've got an army of book passage tribe people all around the world. So looking at you, I just feel I overflow with a sense of gratitude and a sense of wonder. See, I wasn't going to cry this year. This would be the year there would be no crying. Yeah, right? Yeah, okay. But so, I feel like what I do is I pass a sacred charge on to you. I would say, go forth, build bridges of love and understanding and appreciation and compassion. go out and book Passageify the world. There's a planet inside you, and I believe that planet has been forever changed and enriched by your experience here. And now I want you to bridge that planet inside you to the planet outside you. And that's how we make the world a better place. And that's what we all are capable of doing. We're all capable of making the world a better place. And if you want to bring Book Passage with you, that's really what I want you to do. I think that's what we all want you to do. Bring what you've learned here with you. You all become evangelists for Book Passage, but you really become evangelists for the kind of spirit that you find here. And when I think of what that spirit really is, ultimately, finally, the only word that really comes in my brain is love. There's this incredible sense of love here. And it's love for the planet, it's love for the craft of what we do, it's love for the adventures that we get to have in the world, and it's love for each other. I mean, this faculty is so amazing. It's such a deep-rooted part of my life at this point. I just love coming together every year and sharing this time with you all. And you're all a part of that. I mean, the spirit of love that's engendered here, you make that happen. You really do. You make that happen. So, standing in front of you, I feel like the luckiest person in the world, the loveliest person in the world. This incredible sense of love just kind of washes over me here, and I hope it has washed over you, and I hope you take it with you. In so many ways, I don't feel like I deserve this love, but I'm grateful beyond words for it. I'm grateful beyond words for all of you and what you bring to this conference and what you're going to bring out into the world. And so just from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you.